Hi, welcome to this very special episode of Vantage Point by Digijanus. This episode is an adaptation from our first episode, which was a panel discussion. So, this one would be focused on how Anurag and Nivesh are disrupting wealth management. So, let me welcome the CEO of Nivesh.in, Anurag Garg. Thank you so much for being here, Anurag. Really excited to have you. You are taking wealth management to 195 million household, and so I'm really curious to hear what are you doing differently, and how are you disrupting wealth management in India.
Thank you, Laksh. Thank you for inviting me here. Really great to be here. So it's a known fact that penetration of financial products in India is very poor. Only about 2 to 3% of Indian population is invested, and there are two primary reasons. One is lack of awareness and lack of access. Right. So I believe access is very important, and then Indian society is also we trust deficit in terms of investing in financial products. So typically, you would have read, a lot of scams have happened in terms of money being taken away in the form of chit funds. So for us, when we looked at the entire market, there were two important things. One, how to make sure that you provide independent advice. How do you make sure that you're not, giving a wrong product to the customer? Because if these investment journeys are very long, right? Person has to sustain on the investment journey for 7 years, 10 years. And if you give a wrong product and his experience is not good, they'll basically terminate that journey and stop investing early on. So we built the entire model around how to curate the right product, and only give what is required for a particular customer, and that's a big challenge because when you're talking of mass market, people really don't understand concepts like risk, right? So we had to keep things very simple and in local language. Again, English is not really understood, so that's another important factor that why penetration has been so low. So we took care of all of that in the platform. And then second was distribution, right? So the choice was between a direct to customer versus a B2B2C approach. And direct to customer, there are already many platforms, and they're able to get to again to the top 3 4% of the population. So we took a distributor-led approach. There are millions of individual distributors who have been selling financial products in different forms and shapes all over India, but they were also offline, right? And they were struggling because they were offline, so they were able to get to certain customer base, but not able to grow beyond that. So we said, why not you come and work with us as partners? So it's a mutually win-win proposition, right? You provide contemporary technology experience to your customers. They get access to all the best products, and in turn, you grow your own business. So it's really working out well. The model has really worked well for us so far. We're seeing great traction, and particularly pandemic kind of situation has helped us to grow further. So that's just what our model is all about.
Thank you, Anurag, for that wonderful answer. And yeah, it is very amazing that that I never thought of this before. That all the instructions and everything during the investment process is in English, and getting them to local language is such an important uh, hurdle that you have crossed, and it makes it easier, so access becomes easier for everyone out there. And absolutely, I love the whole thought process around not the direct to customer versus B2B2C platform, and enabling financial advisors in this process. And yeah, absolutely. And it is great to know that you are part of the Wealth Tech 100 list as well. So thank you for that answer. So, Anurag, that brings me to our next question. And it is a very obvious one. And I ask this question very often. So, why are banks not doing what you are doing? Why are banks not taking these investment options in local languages to the tier two, tier three cities and enabling RMs to do so?
So to me, it's a question of the DNA of the organization, right? So banks, for them, the core business is not really wealth management. It comes number three, number four in priority. They have been focusing on their core business like raising deposits, lending money, and then other high yielding products like insurance. Right. So the entire incentive system is oriented towards how we can make more money in the short term rather than over long term. While products like mutual funds, they have lower margins, trailer commission kind of system where you make money when customer is with you for many years. You don't really make money early on with a customer. So banks have focused more on transactional products where they can earn money, show better margins in the ongoing quarter, and then comes the question of technology. Right? You need to build a technology from grounds up. You really can't just do patchwork to the existing system and hope that it will work. So most of our customers already had bank accounts, but they never invested with their existing banks. Instead, they chose to come to us. So because of different benefits that we offer, for example, independent advice, multiple products, ability to see the right product for their requirements, for their risk profile. So all of that is working well. While banks will take time to build something like that.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. Yeah, and it absolutely makes sense. That when banks have so many different type of products to sell, focusing on one might not make economical, ROI for them, as some of the other ones might do. And then, of course, having the right technology stack, it has to be built up, as you said, cannot do the patchwork. And it is also about the overall experience for the customer. So that is why, as you mentioned, they have bank accounts, but they still choose to invest with you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. So, Anurag, wherever we go, we hear about how fintechs have it easy because of regulatory sandboxes and easy funding, etc. But I want to spin this table on you, and I want to ask you, uh, you know, what are the challenges that you face because you are not a financial institution or you are a fintech? Would love to hear a couple of examples from you.
Yeah, Lakshya. So there are multiple challenges, right? First and foremost is the regulatory framework. So regulatory framework has not really caught up with what fintechs really need. So we have to still operate within the the traditional regulatory framework, which is more oriented or suited towards the offline way of doing business, right? So, for example, each of our advisors still needs to take a certification for distributing mutual funds. While as a platform, we are curating the product, we are suggesting the product to the end customers. So really, because the advisor is operating within our framework, they should not be required to take an independent certification. But since the regulation requires so they are forced to take that certification, which kind of creates a friction in the scale up. Right. Second is the other regulatory framework, for example, KYC norms. Right. So still for a mutual fund, you require a fresh KYC. While customer already has a bank account where they do KYC, they have a permanent account number where for income tax purposes, but still again a fresh KYC is required, which is again a little bit of tedious process. Right? So these are the kind of things which create friction, and and consumer research shows that the more friction you create, more difficult it is for a new customer to come in. Right? So when we are going to the customers who have not yet invested, and you tell them that this is what you need to do, you need to sign up on few forms, provide few more information, there is a tendency to kind of drop off. Right. To my mind, that's the biggest challenge that we still continue to operate in. But hopefully, things are changing for better. Regulators are taking note of the requirements of fintech. They're doing things, so hopefully, things will improve from here on.
Thank you, Anurag, for that answer. And I think you highlighted a couple of really really good points there. And I think the crux of it is that regulators are playing a little bit of a catch up when it comes to regulation and how do you regulate the fintech industry out there. But as you said, things have started improving quite significantly, and we are looking at better regulation ahead, especially with RBI, starting its own fintech unit. So thank you so much for that answer. A lot of insights out of there. So, Anurag, I want to come to our next question. And one of the things that I've really noticed around the world is that banks are still number one when it comes to owning the deposit or customer accounts. And I continue to, wonder what happens when some of the banks in India go out there and they look at Nivesh and the successful model that you have built, and they want to replicate it. So once they do that, why would the customers or the advisors that you are working with would stick to Nivesh and not move on to the bank's platform? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So, Lakshya, my one line answer is that banks will not be able to do it. Right? So they've been trying to do it for years. So unless they take an approach like what SC has done, they really create a independent entity and they try to do it differently the way startups are doing, then it can definitely work. But as long as banks try to do it in the similar infrastructure using the similar kind of technology stack, it's virtually difficult or impossible for them to do. So what will happen is probably they'll end up acquiring some of the startups and try to then bring in those services into their system. But once the customer has been acquired and customer is satisfied, happy with the platform, we don't see them churning out, right? Unless we goof up in our execution or in what we are doing, right? Even if the banks start offering these services, we don't see that customer will move out. And second is the market is very large, at least in India. Even if there are multiple players, banks also they start offering these services. Still, we feel there is opportunity for everyone with their own different models. And even banking is underpenetrated in India, right? Forget about wealth management. So there is scope for more banks. More banks are getting licenses, and they are coming into play. So that's what I feel that in India there is huge opportunity for everybody, and even banks, if they can, why not?
So a very, very interesting answer there, Anurag. Yet, absolutely in India, where banking is also underpenetrated, wealth management has a long way to go. So there is absolutely space for multiple different type of business models and platforms out there. And I think your message resonates with me. If the platform is doing well, there is stickiness to it, and the customers want to stick to it. So yeah, that I think that answer really resonated very well. Thank you. So, Anurag, now moving this into a very different direction, one question that I love to talk about is the big tech and how it is impacting so many industries out there. They have been the enabling infrastructure, or for a lot of fintechs out there. And now we in India we already see them offering wallets and different kind of financial services. So, how would you react when you would see your enabling ecosystem also competing with you and entering the wealth management segment?
Yes. So already there are like larger wealth tech players providing some financial services. So payment you already said, but even products like mutual funds. But I see that as a positive thing for us because they'll help us expand the market, right? So because of their reach, they'll be able to get in new customers. But once the customers start investing and they realize that there is a specialization which is required that Sam talked about, they'll probably come to our kind of platform, right? So they'll help us expand the market, open up the market. But since wealth kind of thing will never be again a top priority for big tech, right? It'll again remain a marginal product even within their offerings. Right? We don't see them as a serious competition, and we see that it'll just help expand the market, benefit specialized players like us.
So, Anurag, if I could give an award for the best 30-second answer, that would absolutely be for this answer. Really, very good thought process where, whenever somebody like a big tech or any competitor comes into the market, not only they compete with you, but they also help you expand the pie. So, they we could use the term competition because they are increasing the pie for everyone. So, absolutely amazing thought process and answer. So yeah, if I could summarize our discussion, up until now, so it seems like, big tech needs to regulate more, and and the legacy financials need to disrupt more, and the fintechs are sitting exactly in the great value point where they are, disrupting, and they're also getting regulated, and they're creating value while doing both of these things. So, so, Anurag, it has been an absolute delight speaking to you. But before we let you go, we would love to hear, what. One last question, yes, and so we would love to hear from you. What would you like to change about wealth management today?
So, like, say, if you give me liberty, not one, at least two things that I can talk about. Right. So, one regulatory framework I already talked about. That's really a big pain. So, if all of that could change, that'll be a dream come true. Right. And second is, we have to like for various products we have to integrate with various manufacturers, and that integration itself is a big pain. Right. We are bringing them one by one onto our platform, but spending inordinate time, energy in trying to do that. So if somehow that could be simplified again, kind of wishful thinking. It's not going to happen, but if it could happen, that'll be really great.
Absolutely, that is an amazing answer, Anurag. In line with all the answers that you have given today, that bringing in all these regulatory change and making it easier to onboard products from different manufacturers and funds, etc. So that makes it easier for fintechs to go out there and focus on creating value for the customer. Thank you. That was an amazing answer, and I wish you and Nivesh the best. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you.